Another beautiful Friday. Welcome to PM Personality Profile. My guest tonight, a private legal practitioner with 12 years experience at the bar. She has advised, researched and written legal briefs for many multinational companies and international legal firms on corporate, commercial and taxation laws. She's currently a law lecturer at the University of Ghana Law School. Clara Kowlaga Beeri Kasser-Tee is my guest tonight. Good to see you.
Good to be here.
I mean, as part of measures to control COVID-19, all schools were closed down and what have you. Now the cases are going up, but we've been asked to come back to school. Lecturers, students, I mean, we're all trying to come to terms with what is happening. How are you coping?
We are certainly doing our best. We reopened school and started teaching this week. We started on Monday. And for us at the law school and generally at the University of Ghana, we've tried to put in a lot of measures to make sure that learning is still carried out so that our students get the best even in the times of COVID. So we have different scenarios that we are trying out, but the sole aim of all those scenarios is to see which one works best and which one is the most effective in delivering knowledge to our students during these interesting times, if I can call it that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
But you know, so many people admire you a lot. In my office, for instance, and I'm sure it's because of your competence in your field, especially in the company and taxation laws. And this is how my colleague described you. The moment we mention Clara Kasser-Tee, she's a solid woman.
Okay. Oh, thank you very much for that compliment.
Tell me, who is Clara Kasser-Tee?
That's a difficult question. I'm at heart a very simple woman. I love the normal things. I love being a mother. I love playing my duties generally as a mother, as a daughter, as a sister, as a wife, and certainly as a career. So in my life, yes, I always put God first, and then next my duties, my domestic duties as a parent, as a spouse, as a relation, and certainly my career as well. I try to give my clients the best, my students the best, give my best to research so that I can contribute to knowledge. So in general, I take one day at a time. I like all aspects of life and I try to live the best each day and do the best I can each day and just leave the rest to God.
Of course, it's good to be simple. I love the middle name, Kowlaga.
Yes.
What's the meaning of your name, Kowlaga Beeri?
Kowlaga means my father loves. It's usually given to male children.
Okay.
Yes, so female children would usually have gone with mother, but I'm actually the only woman that I know who bears the name Kowlaga in Kasam. It means my father loves.
Means that you were your father's favorite?
I'm told that it was the circumstances surrounding my birth. Apparently, when my mother was heavily pregnant with me, she was a young woman. My parents married quite young. I watched them grow up, if I can put it that way.
Okay, you grew up together.
We grew up together. So I understand that my mother went to the village to go and visit their parents, and she was heavily pregnant there. And I come from Mayoro, and the village is bordered by rivers, and this was in the month of August. Okay. So on the 11th of August, when they packed their things to go back to town where they lived, it started raining heavily.
Wow.
And then my mother went into labor. All the rivers were flooded.
God.
So it wasn't possible to transport her
to the hospital.
So they were saddled with a home birth under the circumstances, and it was her first.
Wow.
So apparently it was so difficult, they didn't expect her to survive.
Oh.
So to cut a long story short, at the end of the day, when she did survive, she didn't die, and she had me healthy. My grandfather said that, it is because his fathers love him. That was the reason why he didn't have a funeral that day. So that's how come I have the name Kowlaga, which means my father loves.
Quite an interesting one.
Yeah.
And Beeri means?
Beeri means to wander. You know, sometimes it's very difficult to find the exact English word for some of the local words that we have. Beeri is one of them. So it's a combination of roam, wander, and seek. Okay. More or less. Yes.
So I can see you often seek.
I like to research a lot. I like to research a lot. I like to observe a lot.
So yes. It's an influence from your name.
Well, there's a saying that names follow people, so maybe it is. Yes, but
Which part of the country do you hail from?
I speak Kasem, so I come from Mayoro.
Okay.
Yes, it's Kogara. Yes.
That's all I can speak anyway. The rest, you know, you don't want to hear.
Yeah, but I grew up in Bolga. I can't always talk about where I come from and not talk about where I spent most of my childhood. Okay. I grew up in Bolga.
Okay, so after you were, your mother delivered you in that village, you said it's called?
Mayoro.
Mayoro.
Yes.
And then at what point did you come to Bolga?
My parents were government workers, so that means that, you know, you go on transfer, so they were moving quite around. At the time they had me, they were living in Nafrongo, but along they moved to Bolga. My father went on transfer to Bolga, so I grew up basically most of my life. I spent in Bolga, and I actually some of my most treasured memories I spent in Bolga.
Oh wow!
Yes,
so you can
specifically
speak
in Wigo. Oh yes, I speak Groni very, very well.
Oh, really?
I join associations that sometimes when I tell people I'm actually not Frafra, those who know me don't believe me. They usually think I'm lying. They're like, no, but yeah, I spent most of my childhood in Bolga, and some of my most treasured memories are from there. Specifically Wikogo, where Big Boss is. My father used to teach at Big Boss, so grew up at Wikogo. Okay. Yes. That's a Talensi constituency, and I happen to be married to a Talensi, so my husband is Talensi. Yes.
Wow.
So I'm back home, if I can put it that way.
Quite interesting. But
yes.
Tell me, how was the experience in Bolga growing up as a soul? At what age did you find yourself in Bolga?
It's probably between 8 and 10. Okay. I should say. Maybe between age 7 and then age 10.
Maybe around that time you weren't really taking notes.
No, I wasn't. Okay. I wasn't. Because I remember we used to go, my mom and I used to go and spend some time there, but I was still schooling in Avrongo, so they used to have to take me back to school and then bring me back. So they were doing that trip until we moved finally to join my parents. And I remember I started class 4 there.
In Bolga.
Yes, in Bolga.
Okay, so tell me the experience. Where did you start from? Where did it all start?
I like most normal kids, I just enjoyed my life. I am a firstborn, and both parents were working. So that
how many of you?
5.
5 of you.
Yes.
Are you the only girl?
No, I'm there. We are 3 girls, and then I have 2 brothers.
Oh, okay.
Yes. I started school at St. John Bosco's Day Nursery, and then so up to St. John Bosco's Primary School class 3, and then I moved to Wikogo Primary School from class 4 to class 6, and then moved to Akantomi Junior Secondary School for JSS, and then to Bolga Girls Secondary School, Bogis. That's where I did my what is now senior high education. It was fun. I enjoyed my childhood throughout. Although my siblings don't believe me when I say I enjoyed my childhood, because they thought I had too many responsibilities at the time and I was working too hard at the time. But I generally enjoyed everything that I did. I enjoyed my childhood, enjoyed the life that I lived.
How was secondary school like? Bolga girls. So you were all girls?
We're all girls, yes.
And what were you reading in Bolga Girls?
Oh, I read...
Were you in the boarding house?
Yes, I was in the boarding house. And I was actually the school prefect at some point in school. I read English, literature, and French.
Were you a bad girl or stubborn? Which of the two?
Well, I'm generally a box ticker. Which means that I generally obey school rules unless it doesn't make sense. If it doesn't make sense, I'll let you know that this doesn't
challenge
exactly.
it.
I will challenge it, but I'm generally not. And I had growing up, I had a lot of. When I was also the charismatic president for Catholic Charismatic Renewal,
Okay.
I used to sing in school. I used to play basketball, and I used to do act as well, do debating for my school. So you see, I didn't have too much time for many other things. I had my time divided between all of these things that I was doing, and I also had responsibility for my younger siblings, because at that time my mother had gone for further studies, and so it was just us and our dad.
Okay.
So it meant that I went to school. I went home virtually every weekend to go make sure that there was food prepared, to prepare food and put in the fridge, and make sure that all of my siblings are fine. And then I would go back on Sunday. Virtually every Friday or Saturday, I was home to see to my siblings. And then Monday I get back to school and I have all these interesting things that were up, basketball to play every evening. I also used to run. Actually, I was an athlete as well, so I used to do
1,005.
Yes, long distance. How do you know?
My goodness, I did 1,005 too, but now I'm not sure I can.
I don't think I can too. But yes, I did 1,005 and 3,000. Yes.
And at that time they allowed you, because this time I'm not sure they would allow a student to be going home every weekend.
They allowed me some.
And some you ran away.
Yes, some. And I used to tell them, I used to explain to them that I have to go home because I have to take care of my siblings. And they will tell me, no, you can't be going home every weekend. You have to study. I said, yes, I understand. But if I don't go and see my siblings, I can't study because I'll keep thinking about them and all of that. So if I come to ask for permission and you don't give me, and I tell them straight up, I said, if you don't give me this permission to go home, I'm still going to find a way to go home.
My goodness. You did that, so I'm sure you'll be punished one of the times.
Largely they understood. Also, I think because they knew I wasn't a disobedient student.
Okay.
And the teachers also knew that I did have issues, in the sense that they knew my mom wasn't around and my dad was working 2 jobs at the time. My dad was teaching at the secondary school there, and he was also a radio presenter. Okay. Which then meant that when he wasn't teaching, he was at Ura Radio. Okay. And then he would come late. So I had genuine concerns for the welfare.
You were even a mother at school.
I was a mother. So they tried. The teachers tried, because their main worry was the fact that it would affect my studies. Yeah. But eventually they had to understand that I needed to do that one as well. Okay. So we kind of, should I say, we managed to live.
I mean, this could be one of the challenges you had to deal with as a student in the secondary school. But what other challenges did you have in the secondary school?
For me, it was the main challenge. The other little challenge, which wasn't really a challenge, was that because I was doing very well in class, some of the teachers weren't happy that I was also a sports girl. Because they felt there were too many things competing for my time. Okay. But I enjoyed the sports as well. Okay. And the sports master was very, very helpful, in the sense that he made sure that when I wasn't on the basketball court or training, I was studying. So it worked out. It was basically, the biggest challenge was my tendency, my going home every weekend to attend to my siblings and all of that. But eventually that was understood, because like I said, if I had to make a choice at the time, I would have chosen to be dismissed so that I could go home and take care of my siblings. And the teachers, that was understood, that I was ready to be dismissed if that was what it had to be. Exactly.
Was it because you were intelligent and that was why they really didn't want to do that to you?
I can't say I know, but you know, I was a child at the time. I don't think I understood. They knew I didn't understand the choices I was making, but they knew that I was also really not going to abandon. I wasn't willing to consider abandoning my siblings, because I knew they needed me, and honestly they knew I wouldn't mind being dismissed if that was what it came to. So I could
didn't mind.
Oh, I didn't mind, because I wasn't going to abandon my siblings. Okay. That was pretty much. It wasn't that one.
Your topmost priority.
Yes, that was my topmost priority, and it wasn't negotiable.
I see where the toughness is coming from, because I see you to be like a tough woman who would always stand her grounds. But what would you say was your most memorable days in the secondary school?
Oh, my most memorable days were the days I had some friends that I used to sing with.
Okay.
Those were some of my most memorable days. And then playing basketball. One of my most memorable days, actually, when it comes to basketball, was a day we lost. For the first time,
okay,
we lost a game, and I didn't see that coming. And
were you playing with other schools?
Yes,
okay.
It was inter-schools.
And inter-schools
we usually won.
Game.
Inter-schools, we usually won, or like, we usually topped. I mean, we're very good. So, and I remember our coach was always telling us, if you don't train hard and you lose a game, I don't want you to come crying. And I'll be like, if we lose a game, we've lost a game. Why would I come crying?
Because you had not had the experience.
But when we lost by one basket, I couldn't. I remember when the final whistle went off, I just put my head down. And I heard the coach calling me because Clara, and I just walked off. I went straight to my room. My friends knew I had gone to cry, and I had locked, because part of my privileges as a school prefect was you have, you just have this cubicle to yourself, and then you just have your junior with you. So I locked myself in my cubicle and cried throughout.
My goodness.
Yeah, I cried. I didn't expect to cry that much, but I remember it took me a long time to recover, and this was after I had bluffed our coach that, I mean, what is losing a game? If we lose a game, we've lost a game. But
I'm sure
when I lost that game,
at the time you were crying. I mean, the coach's words were ringing.
They were ringing, and I remembered all the early morning trainings, all the times I didn't sleep. I woke up very early in the morning, came to this pitch, trained for months,
and
just to lose by one basket.
It's so painful.
It was very painful. It was very painful. Everybody, all my friends were surprised, because I was the one. I always laughed at people who cried when they lost a game. I didn't know I would cry that much when I lost one.
Clara Kowlaga Beeri Kasser-Tee is my guest tonight, and when I return from this break, I'll be finding out, or I'll be delving into her career as a lawyer and a lecturer. Remember, she has a relationship with her students. What is that relationship like? And also to find out how she's coping in profession they refer to as a preserve for the male. All of that when I return from the break. Stay with me, I'm coming right back. Welcome back to PM Personality Profile. My guest is still Clara Kasser-Tee, and we're having some interesting conversation here at the university. You studied philosophy and English.
I did, for my first degree.
So how did you end up studying law? Or let me say, was it a decision made by mom and dad?
To some extent, but not completely. Like every child growing up, I wanted to be a lot of things. Journalism was one of them. I actually wanted to be a journalist.
Because your dad worked with a radio station.
Now that you say, but it didn't occur to me at the time. I just wanted, and I just wanted to be a journalist. So I remember my cousin, he's called Father Clement Beeri.
Okay.
So Father Clement asked me that, but why do you want to be a journalist? And I was like, oh, I want to speak for people.
Okay.
I see a lot of injustice. And that was actually influenced by one incident that I had witnessed. It was a young boy being lynched on accusations of. So it was around the Christmas season, and I was home and I saw people running, and cut a long story short, when I went there, it was this young man who had been beaten to pulp. He wasn't dead, but he had been beaten to pulp. And even as a child, I felt that wasn't right. They said he had stolen, people tried to explain to me he had stolen a goat. And I said, still, it didn't warrant the beatings that he got. And they asked me that, do I have a Christmas, have my parents bought my Christmas dress yet? Because it was getting to Christmas. And I said, yes, they've bought my Christmas dress. And they asked me, so if somebody comes to steal your Christmas dress,
how would you
and then
feel?
On Christmas Day, you don't have a Christmas dress to wear, how would you feel? And I said, that would be very difficult. But that notwithstanding, I didn't think it was right the way they beat up the poor chap. And that was when I said I wanted to be a journalist so that I could speak against such things, and then people would not get beaten in that manner. Then my brother, Father Clement, said that then maybe you want to be a lawyer.
Okay.
Because lawyers do that job. And I said, okay, but it didn't, there was nothing to it. I just went to school, did what I had to do. Some of my teachers did suggest along the line that I may want to do law, but again, like most children growing up, if I had to study, I just studied and just made sure I passed and did very well. But I hadn't firmly decided. When I finished SSS, I did consider, because everybody was saying that, oh, do law is good. I thought of reading law. But at that time, law was no longer a first degree course. So you couldn't come in and do law straight away. So I read English and philosophy, and I enjoyed it a lot. When I finished, I thought maybe I could do international relations. That was what the next thing that I wanted to do. But so I actually bought forms to go for international relations, and then my mom bought the forms for law school and forced me more or less to I should just sign for her. So I signed for her, and then she submitted the forms, did everything. Cut a long story short, when we were supposed to write the entrance exam for law school, I wasn't planning, I didn't make any plans to write. But at the time I was doing my national service, and then work brought me to Accra.
Okay.
So
where were you?
I was in Bolga at the time. So I came to Accra, and I remember that day I didn't have anything doing. So I heard they were writing there, and I had come to visit some friends on campus, and I heard they were writing there. So I just went in and wrote. I just went in and wrote the law entrance exam, and then
You passed?
I passed.
My goodness.
Yeah.
You had not prepared for it.
No, because it wasn't. I was kind of thinking that, well, the number of years is too long, and international relations is just 1 year, and this law I have to do 4 years. So I wasn't excited about the 4 years. But thanks to older people at the time and my mother, the guidance they gave me, they were like, oh, the four years will come in no time. And I'm happy they did, because I love this.
You enjoy your job?
I did. I do. I love what I do.
Wow.
I love what I do. And every day I'm grateful that they somehow managed to push me,
and convince
me to.
And here you are doing so well. And I always say that you came to University of Ghana, went out, now you're here lecturing back home, right?
Yes, back home. And I love this place.
I can see. I can see. Let's talk about the law school. So you went to write, and then bingo, you passed. So for you, that kind of strictness and toughness, I mean, the struggle people have to go through to be able to make it to the law school, you didn't pass through.
Law school is tough. I think anybody who passes through law school necessarily struggles. The course is such that it doesn't matter who you are, it's tough.
Yeah.
So by the time you will finish with the course, you would have struggled at a point. In terms of, did I write many times? No, I wrote the exam only once. Yes. And then, I got, but the law school itself was not easy at all, because when I now came to law school, I got married. Along law school, and I was pregnant.
Wow.
Still in the course of, because when I was growing up, I was always doing a lot of things at the same time. So I figured that, I'm used to doing a lot of things at the same time. So big deal, marriage. I can marry and do the course. I got married. Big deal, baby. I can have a baby and do the course, because I was taking care of 4 siblings while studying. So this wouldn't be anything, but it was something. So it wasn't easy at all. My husband was very supportive. I think my husband understood better what I would need, and he did a lot to help. But I had underrated the toll that domestic duties would take on me. But I got a lot of help from family, as well from my husband. So yes, I was able to combine it all, and still, yes.
But before you went to the law school, I mean, how would you describe university during your time?
During my time, like a lot of things that I do, I enjoyed my time at the university.
Okay.
I was doing student politics as well. So I was in Volta Hall, and I was a senator.
Okay.
So in Volta Hall, I was a senator. And then for the SRC, university-wide, I was a General Assembly member. And General Assembly at the time was the parliament is the equivalent of the student parliament. So we can say that I was a student parliamentarian. And then in Volta Hall, I was a senator as well. I also chaired some committees as well. So I had a very active life, enjoying student politics or student leadership, whatever it is, playing my roles here. And I enjoyed church as well. So I was a member of Pax Romana and I was a lector. Okay. So I used to read in church as well. So just similar to my life in secondary school, when I was here at Legon, I was doing similar things and just made sure I studied, but also made sure that I did my duties as a senator, as a General Assembly member, as a church member. The only thing I left out when I was on Legon was I didn't do the sports bit. It was the only thing that suffered.
At that time, I thought you were a big girl.
I didn't have the time. Yes. Because there was also old school association. There were a lot of other things that I was doing. The sports didn't just...
I can imagine. Yes. You are an advocate for the law school to be opened up. You must be happy that last year 1,045 candidates got admission into the law school.
Yes, I was happy that a lot more people got admission, but for me that's not, it's not open. What I'm advocating for is still not met, in the sense that I still don't believe, I've always said that if you look at our history, every society grows as a point. So you look at your needs as a people and decide what works for you. At the time we established the law school and had just one law school, what was the population? If you look at our constitution today and our aspirations as people, what do we want? So I think, like other common law countries, going to law school is just an opportunity to study. Yeah. And I don't see why there should be restrictions on opportunities to study. Obviously, the real reason we are having an entrance exam is because there aren't enough spaces. So the Ghana Law School can't accommodate everybody. That's why the Ghana Law School is writing is asking for an entrance exam. It's not because there are issues with the products that we have. That's not the reason we introduce an exam. It's the space. So I advocate that open it up, in the sense that let academic institutions do what academic institutions do. So let the academic institutions that can run the course, like Legon,
do the professional course.
Do the professional course. Then let the General Legal Council regulate the bar exam. Yeah. So what they should regulate, whoever it is, after you get your LLB, I've always said, even if you don't want to go to law school, you want to stay in your kitchen and study very hard, provided you are able to pass the bar exam. I don't see why you shouldn't be called to the bar. So we should have a bar exam, but the opportunity, we should separate the bar exam from the opportunity to study. I don't think the opportunity to study should be regulated in the current way that it is, even if more people are passing. We should let academic institutions run the professional course, then regulate the bar exam. Okay. Yes.
You are such a strong lawyer, and I just can imagine you in court and how you be rubbing shoulders with your male colleagues, but it still doesn't erase the fact about what we call the legal feminism, or the feminist legal theory, the fact that people, they think that the legal profession is actually a preserve for men, and so they try to, you know, think that as a woman you should always respect the men. I mean, what's your experience? Have you had that kind of experience where your male colleagues would want to bully you and all that?
Generally, when it comes to, and I probably guess it's patriarchy across the world, I've always said that generally across the world, and also in Africa and in Ghana as well, it's not just the law profession, but when you are a woman, in a lot of situations, I used to joke that it's a perceived disadvantage. It is worse when you are a young woman or when you look young. Yeah. The expectations is worse, because then the expectation is that you should be a lot more laid back, and the expectation is that you would let people push you around and all of that. And when the people don't do that, then they actually think you are the problem, rather than realizing that they are the problem and that they are not supposed to have those expectations or to behave that way. So yes, sometimes, generally, but the good thing about the bar is once you try, I mean, you would try, but I think once you realize this is the way this other person is, everybody adjusts. You won't be happy,
okay.
But yes, generally as a lawyer, when your client hires you, your client doesn't hire you to go and make the other lawyer happy. Your client hires you to do their case. So you do their case. There was once I had a case and I was doing with this other male colleague, and I was sitting with him chatting and smiling. And then another lawyer that I had done a case with in another matter came and told the other lawyer that, you see her smiling like that, you think she's a nice person. That she will smile with you, joke with you, laugh with you, but when you get before the judge, you will not recognize her.
She will show you her other side.
I don't know whether that is a good thing or a bad thing, but there was one of them. It did get to me because I realized that someone who had known me outside of the court, and then I had this case, the person was so shocked. I was like, but you are a nice person. Yes, I'm a nice person, but this is my job. I said, no, I haven't changed. It's my job. I was just doing a case. Yes, but I always tell people that I'm a nice person. So when I meet you, even if you are my colleague lawyer and we are on opposing sides, when I meet you outside the court, we are not fighting.
Yeah.
And we just have
we are defending our clients.
Exactly. We are each defending our clients. We are not fighting. So we'll chat. But when we get before the judge, it's a different matter. But it doesn't, I don't take it to heart. I just do my job. So I always tell people, those who think I'm a very nice person and get shocked when they see me on my feet. I'm sorry, but that's our job. That's the way it works. It doesn't mean much. I'm just doing.
It just cements your toughness. That you're a tough woman, you're a go-getter. I mean, you go for what you want. But again, it's...
I actually always thought I was a shy woman. I thought I was shy.
I mean, sometimes I used to, I mean, growing up, I didn't like talking, but with the job I find myself in, now I've become a talkative. So yeah, so you may be shy, maybe your job made you the way you are now, but of course women form the biggest part of the world's population. Ghana is no exception, but unfortunately just a few women are into the legal profession. Are you worried about this?
Yes, and also because as we grow, not just the legal profession, but if you are looking at our statistics, we should be improving. We have more women going to school and all of that. But let's even say the boardrooms. When you enter the boardrooms, how many women do you see? You may go into an organization and then a lot of the staff there would be women. But if you look at the top hierarchy, how many women do we have? So it helps, and usually it's important because mentoring, when young girls see women at certain positions, it's easier for them to aspire. I know that growing up, I had to, other women inspired me to think that, well, I could do what I do. So I think generally as a society, we would probably need to revisit some of our norms in terms of the way we perceive women, what we take a typical home, for example. The duties usually on a woman are a lot. So it's understandable why after a certain age you don't find the women, because they have too many things to do at home. But it would be easier if they got support. So once partners start to support one another, I think that we can get more women going into bigger spaces. And apart from that, just deliberately also giving women opportunity and creating an environment that is supportive. For example, when I was in school, like I said, I was pregnant. And although I graduated at the top of my class, it wasn't easy. Now I'm thinking that it would be great if campuses could make place, like if we had, let's say that here we have a nursery, we have a daycare center, so that mothers can leave their children. So I've always been, if we look at our constitution, the plan to have a daycare center across the board is there, but it's not being effected. It's one of the things that would help a lot, because if women could go to work, could go to adult institutions, and there's a daycare center, a daycare there that they can leave their children. there whilst they study, then they can do both roles, because by nature, we are the ones who have to produce for the next generation to survive. Otherwise, yes, if we don't have kids, the human race would go extinct. So we should be able to create an environment where women could exploit their potentials while still being able to be mothers, wives, sisters. A daycare center, it would be one of them.
When I return from this break, I'll be gauging her mood on the 8th Parliament. It's been an interesting one, the back and forth. What's her expectation of the 8th Parliament, the parliamentarians themselves? What should be their conduct? I'll also be gauging her mood on the 2020 election petition. So far, so good. What are her expectations? All of that after this break. Welcome back to PM Personality Profile. Clara Kasser-Tee is my guest, and of course she's been letting us into her life and her legal profession. Now to Parliament, the 8th Parliament, and of course the interesting turn of events. What's your own appreciation of how events have turned out? Now we are told that even at the committee level they've split 13-13, even though they have 137 each in the chamber. What's your appreciation, and going forward, what do you want to see as to how business is conducted in the House?
For now, it's quite interesting. I think, like many people, I'm happy that we have this kind of, because probably for the first time we are going to see Parliament do its work as Parliament and hold oversight responsibility. Because now, of course, for any political party, for every political party, once you have the numbers, you know you can bulldoze your way. And we have this interesting position that, of course, once you have a parliament, the various parliamentarians, because of the constitutional provision that the majority of ministers should be appointed from Parliament, everybody's auditioning for appointment, which then means that they are not going to be likely. So it more or less invariably becomes a rubber stamp. Now, I'm sure anybody going to Parliament, you realize that you are not going to have it easy. You can't bank on one side having enough numbers to support you to do what you do, which then means that you would have to justify why Parliament must vote for you. And I also want to believe that the parliamentarians themselves would then see that their constituents would be holding them individually accountable as well. Yep. It's one of the things in our democracy that I hope that we do something about, holding parliamentarians accountable. I want to see parliamentarians vote and justify their votes, so that if their constituents will know what their parliamentarians stand for. So if your constituents send you to Parliament and a certain bill comes before Parliament, and you vote for that bill, your constituents should know that this bill, you voted for it, and these are the reasons why you voted for it. So that when you come back to them, they will know whether you represented their interest or you did not represent their interest. So this, in terms of equipping each parliamentarian's office, so that, of course, they have the necessary assistance to do research, and also that we have enough documentation to know what they've been doing in Parliament. What have you been supporting and what have you not been supporting? So that as your constituent, I know whether you are representing my interest or you are not. And then when you come back again wanting my vote, I know whether to give it or not to give it.
Now, hearing of the 2020 election petition has started at the Apex Court, and already we've seen some twists and turns. I mean, for you, what are you expecting? What are your expectations of the lawyers from both sides and the 7-member panel judges who are sitting on the case?
For both sides, the lawyers, all of them have the same duty, which is to represent their clients to the best of their ability. I've always said that when it comes to this, no one can love you more than your lawyer. Your lawyer is the one who loves you the most. As you sleep, your lawyer is not sleeping. Your lawyer is thinking of you and thinking of how best to represent your interests. So I expect the lawyers from both sides to do everything that they can to protect their various clients' interests. That's what lawyers do. It is the judge's duty to do justice. So at the end of the day, the judges will have the opportunity to hear both sides and decide what is justice at the end of the day. I'm happy that, for example, we are having this because it's becoming part of the ways to resolve disputes in elections. We know that Africa generally, the disputes most of the time were resolved on the streets, which wasn't very pretty. But a lot more are going to court and all of that. So yes, I want to see, and I want the courts. I always say, ultimately, my desire is for the courts to legitimize this growth in the sense that they will take their time, do justice according to law, so that people know that when we have a dispute, this is where we come. And I've always told people, when the dispute is done, not everybody is going to be happy. Sometimes both sides are not even happy. Sometimes you can go to court and the winning side is not happy and the losing side isn't happy either. But at the end of the day, there is the finality. Yeah. So there is finality to it. You may not agree with whatever decision that is given, but whatever decision that is given is final and binding, of course, unless you intend to go for a review and all of that. So we will live with whatever the decision is, and then all we expect from the judges is to do justice according to law. And then help this to grow, inspire a lot more other African countries that if you are not happy at the end of the day with elections,
this is where to go.
This is where to go
to the court.
Yes, you have to go to the courts or follow whatever laid down procedures are available. We grow that way. That's how it
as we wait for the apex court to make that decision, let's talk about you as a lecturer and your relationship with your students. Have you had your fair share of, I did well, but she failed me, and then in the events they pass, they say I passed? Have you had your fair share?
Every lecturer would, but to be fair to my students, most of the time after the course, some of my students are bold enough or courageous enough to walk up to me and tell me that I enjoyed the way you handled the course, and regardless of what mark I get, I really appreciate what you did. So even before the marks come out, they are prepared. They come to me telling me they are prepared to accept.
That's a good one, because sometimes they can get nasty, sometimes verbal, sometimes physical attacks.
I haven't experienced that. I've always encouraged my students. There are some who have, of course, gotten in touch with me that, oh, can you take another look at my grade? I didn't do well. I think I should have done better. I have those ones. I have students who say, I think I should have done better, or this mark doesn't reflect. Like every other lecturer, I experience those ones, but not quite often. And I always tell my students that I'm always happy. If you are not happy with your grade, feel free to come, let's discuss. Okay. Let's discuss. And as a lecturer, if the numbers would permit, and if I had time, my personal policy would be to be able to engage every student one-on-one to discuss your script, and then tell you where you went wrong and where you didn't do well. The reason I say that is, from my years of experience, there are some students who are very good. So you realize that they are not doing well, not because they don't know, but they are not doing well because there's probably something they are doing wrong, that if they got to understand that this is what I'm not doing right, they would be getting A's rather than B's or C's.
And it
or
takes the lecturer.
It takes the lecturer.
Attention.
Exactly. And sometimes they probably even don't know how to answer questions, which you even address at tutorials and the general lecture as well. So if I had my own way and the numbers would permit, I would enjoy to have a one-on-one session with every student and discuss your script with you if you want to discuss it.
Have you ever regretted being a lecturer?
No, no, I haven't.
Because
with all these challenges.
You haven't had some of them. Some lecturers say they even get spiritual attacks.
No, it doesn't mean students don't come. I've had students who have complained, who have come to me and complained bitterly. The lecture went so well that I expected to get an A, that I didn't get an A. But with all these challenges, I've loved it. I haven't regretted.
You showed them your other side. You laughed with them, but the marking.
I think from day one they know that. The students themselves always know that, so they know that I would be nice, but they know that, Charlie, if they fail, I'll fail them. They know that.
No consideration.
They know. And if they pass, I'll pass. They know whatever they get is whatever
it's
they
what
produce.
they will get.
Exactly.
Wow.
It's what they will get.
Well, and after all of that, you just need to cool off. What do you do to relax?
Oh, I like to walk. One of the things I like doing is walking. So I walk, I see people, I chat. I love to do that a lot. I generally also like to see nature. So probably retreating to the countryside where at least you can relax and enjoy nature. I like to do that. I like to sing.
Okay.
Yes, and sometimes I like to play. I haven't played basketball in a while, but I like to play basketball sometimes as well. Yes, and generally read novels as well. Yes.
We are so proud of you, and I'm sure Mr. Kasser-Tee and the kids are also very proud of you.
Oh, thank you very much.
Do the kids also see you as a two-way? That you play with them, and when they want to get stubborn, you are like, hey, don't go there.
They do, but you know kids are manipulative, eh? So they usually try to manipulate. Oh, mommy, you're looking very beautiful. Then you know
something is following.
You know something is following. Yes. So they are usually manipulative.
So how many boys, how many girls?
Oh, I have one. I have one, a boy.
One boy.
Yes,
Mommy's boy, I guess. Love music too, right?
I do. I do. I love music a lot.
Okay.
I love music a lot. One of the things like I said, when as a child, I wanted to be many things. Musician was one of them. I used to like singing a lot. I haven't sung in a long time, but I used to sing a lot.
Okay.
And like I said, I actually used to lead a singing band in my school, and I used to represent for singing competition for my school, for the Catholic Charismatic Renewal. But I haven't sung in a long time. Life just happened, and but I still love music.
Which genre?
It's difficult to be. I love good music. Any good music, I'm cool. I like reggae. I like gospel. I like country music. I like hip hop. It's any good song. Good. It's good. I like music generally.
Wow, does this one ring a bell?
My favorite. King from Mississauga, that's my favorite. I love that song.
Really?
I love that song very, very much.
She's not just a lawyer, she's not just a tough woman out there. She also makes some time to enjoy music too. And don't forget, she loves basketball as well. We'll be going to the basket court to play some basketball. Hopefully, I'll learn to play some basketball too. Needle Thread Designs made my beautiful dress. Call them on 0543 196 or visit their showroom at 34 West Loop, Tesano West. So here we are at the basketball court. Clara has been doing this for most part of her life since secondary school. She has passion for this game, basketball. I love it too, but I've never had the opportunity to play. Today is my lucky day. I'm not going to leave anything to chance. Let's see how it goes.
So when you're playing, what you try to do is to prevent the other side from shooting. So you do whatever you can to take the ball away from the one handling the ball handler, and otherwise, or try to tackle their teammates so that none of them is in a very good position, and not just the good position, to have the focus, enough focus to be able to shoot and make a basket. Whilst the rest of you also try to take the ball from the person, block them from shooting if you can, and take the ball away, basically. Now, if you use your leg, unlike football, if you use your leg, it's a foul. So if the ball lands on your leg, that becomes a foul. Most sports is teamwork. So you watch out for the person, and when the shot is made and doesn't make a basket, the rebound, you make sure that you try to get the rebound. So every team member struggles to get the ball and shoot again if you can. Basically. But it's a very interesting game.
started the game together. I had an injury, so I couldn't continue. I guess I was too aggressive as a first timer. But don't worry, I'll get used to it. I'll come back and I'm sure I would overtake her.
You did good as a first timer. You did good actually as a first timer. I loved the game.
And you showed me some skills right now.
I haven't played in a while, but yes, I love the game.
Thank you so much for allowing us into your life. We're really, really grateful. And we appreciate the good work you're doing. Keep up the good work. Viewers, thank you so much for watching. I had an injury. I've really had a lot of fun here. But I had an injury. But that notwithstanding, I guess it's my first time. I'll come back again. So don't worry. I'll figure something out. Thank you so much. Same time next week, we'll be bringing you another edition of PM Personality Profile. My name is Aisha Ibrahim. Enjoy the rest of our program.